all aboard. It is time for Game 5 or Game 11 if you're keeping track at home. We got 2 more to go to determine who's the next 15 cargoes that move on to that big train in the sky. And hey, they're talking about all these different tons of hype trains, Sundown. I gotta say, I'm all aboard the Thomas the Train engine. Thomas HD is going to be someone that everybody is got an eye on. Already in NA East, you already have some of the pros talking about Thomas HD, throwing down those Twitterverse barbs and jabs. I love it, and I'm feeling it. I am Sancho West again, alongside Sundown, and this is where it goes. We already see the zone was revealed. We got a peek, and it's still going to be on that northwest side, northern area. So Doomsdomain is going to have a strong point here, but let's see if it all points out here as we're on board here with Roxo.
And you can see here, Roxo, Cammy, and Artur again were the ones who came up with the victory royale last match, rocketing them up. I believe they are in 4th right now after that last little push. 5th place right there, about 15 points behind Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson, who were in 2nd place, and they're able to finish it out right there. But for me, really the rising star has been Kezik's 4ZR Indate. The fact that we were able to win last week and now is just putting on as much of a dominating performance. Right now they're up, I think it's 18 points on 2nd place. So unless they fall here, it's realistically going to be near impossible to catch them for everyone who's not named Milan, Chapix, and Queasy.
And that is one of the teams that are doing the scavenger route, and we kind of highlight this kind of style of play. It's just an opportunity. And the question is, though, as we jump on board to a team that is not doing a scavenger route, is Sundown, how does a scavenger trio find power weapons, and what is the risk of running those routes versus landing at a POI that you're seeing Hen and Putrick and Deceptos have?
So scavenger routes, generally the biggest thing and the reason you're doing it is because you get more access to resources quicker, and that way, and you're less threatened. So you're not strong enough to take the early game fights, and you're looking to rotate out. Generally, you'll see the strongest one, and that's consistent across other regions, is the Sentinels, Hero Park, Ghost Space one, and then kind of rotating around the side. The strength of this is generally you're not going to find people early on, and you're able to kind of farm up and get your materials. The way you get your power weapons is you're largely reliant on finding the upgrade benches that are nearby and using the excess materials to then find a charge, get over your quick side grade, and then kind of get as many of those rare weapons as possible to get kind of the most efficient upgrades off. However, if somebody cuts off your route or is able to get quickly out of a POI and fights you before you're really able to get set up, it can be incredibly difficult to execute. But right now, we kind of see one of these edge POI fights where it can also be difficult to execute because you don't get that same access to early materials and having necessary space. And you see, you're kind of forced to fight with just whatever you can get your hands on.
You're seeing the Papa, Mama, and Leon 27th place, so unless they put back-to-back pop-off games, they may not be able to qualify, but we talk about the way you could get in is through the series points door, all accumulated throughout the trio's competition. So that's going to be a strong opportunity for them. But as well is that we saw people that didn't qualify from week 1 who were competing in round 3. They were able to build on their success of at least making it and qualify here in week 2. So Papa, Mama, and Leon got some homework to do. They're going to figure out what is their change in strategy, that adjustment game plan. But right now, they're getting it done. Already winning this engagement against Boyer. That's a completely different outcome that we saw in the previous game, Sundown.
Yeah, Boyer and Tripper going down right there early on. Going to put it all on the back of Kaiser, who was the first one to fall last match. So can he turn around and do his team a favor and clutch it out? Looks like it's going to be a little bit difficult to hop on board here with Leon, but big shot backing him off a little bit. Going to break through some of his shields. I would honestly have popped the minis. That way, if you do end up converting on this elimination, you'll end up getting the siphon going through to your shields rather than being unable to pop the minis after the fact. But kind of nitpicking as he is able to find it. However, my nitpicking was accurate. Leon had plenty of time, should have popped those minis in going through. However, the AR shots coming through will give him enough reason to pop it right now.
And this is where a scavenger route team, as you're seeing one right there, could kind of like either decide whether should I third party this, kind of take pot shots at them, or just continue on my rotation and continue scavenging through. A strong team here that is making their way up their leaderboard is Resguard, Stompy, and Scram, who has a very popular spot here in the EU region here at Steamy Stacks. And you're taking a look here, the zone is not that far from them. They're going to have the opportunity to rack up as much metal as possible and take advantage of sometimes you get some fishing spots on the north side there that they could hit up, or they could use the stacks themselves to scout, to get around faster around the POI. And sometimes, Sundown, there's a Quinjet. We haven't mentioned the Quinjets yet, but if a Quinjet spawns underneath them, they could opt to upgrade to that Stark Energy Rifle, and they could get some valuable metal and hit up the shield henchman chest that harbors inside one.
Yeah, and don't forget the Quinjets, they have set spots on the map that they can land, but where they end up landing, all the players are able to see them off the start of the map. So you'll generally see the routes depend on whether or not they're by there, and players passing through there often later on as well, just to pick up those Stark Energy Rifles we've seen at the top level, the fast first shot accuracy, and then even kind of the potent hip fire that comes out, making that the weapon of choice for a lot of top trios. But we're going to swing it back on over to this fight, and you talked about it, Skype, Falconly, and I already forgot. Falconly and Yaxo, excuse me. That's why just using your regular names is so much better, despite how cool it might be. Are opting to take that engagement you talked about, and again, it's another one of those strengths of the scavenger route is you decide when you fight 90% of the time, because unless somebody gets pounced on when somebody leaves the rotation, and if you play a scavenger route enough, you should kind of know generally when those players are going to be looking to leave. You're not often threatened, which means you can kind of go and decide when you set up these ambushes on player, and they're going to find the first down there. Will they be able to convert on it? Sky goes down, but a huge shot coming out there, and that's going to end up being the full wipe coming through as both Falconly and Yagso are able to get the elims there. Skype will go down, but he's not going to be completely ticked over. There's some white heals, and the zone is relatively close, so they're going to be able to use those and then rotate out of the area.
This trio is in 18th place with 74 points going into this matchup, getting a little bit more elims. They're just three placements away from qualifying in top 15. That's being held down by Kiriachi Rotary and Stormy Wright with 86 points. So some work to do just to get in. Another team that's on the bubble. We're going to keep track of all these bubble teams because they're going to need a good back-to-back. It's Kiko, Slender, and Grande. Vamos! They have to get it up as much as possible to get going, because what's happening here is they're essentially vulturing or kind of picking up the scraps that you see that's left behind from VorZR's trio. And I think that's what's happening to their inconsistency. Sometimes they're going to keep forward and going through the rotations, and all of a sudden VorZR's trio could just turn around and beam. But here comes some beams again. The great fight, the heavyweight fight, the jousting between these young knights is happening right here and there. And they're like a couple of rams just headbutting every single time. And the stubbornness between the two trios is showing this, that they're going to work as hard as possible to give them L's and get that nice condition so they won't have a greasy finish.
I mean, I've said it time and time again.
Embrace.
Man. This is no. I'm not embracing this, because it gets to a point where legitimately, as a top competitive and professional player, I think you're almost borderline inting. I really think you are. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And it's getting to a point where, yes, they're going to be able to qualify for the heats and go through, but if we're talking about the bigger picture, is this a good practice if you're trying to win the FNCS? My answer is no. I don't think that this is time well spent for them, both in terms of trying to earn some of the qualifier money that comes through, also in terms of trying to game plan themselves to be ready for heats and to be ready for that final. Because, yeah, sure, maybe they aren't there in your heat and they draw into a different heat, but in the finals, they're going to be there. And you have to be thinking about winning the overall thing, which right now, in my conversation, 4ZR, Nate, and Kezix have far and away set themselves as the favorite in EU, with the fact that they won the first week, and their level of aggression coming through this week and the level of consistency has been unreal. I mean, just look down there. 4ZR's trio is on pace to be the first team to win a qualifier without a victory royale. And that just speaks to the fact that they're not getting those additional 5 placement points that come through with winning the actual match, and the eliminations on top of it means they're about missing out on 7 to 8 potential points by not having a win. And the fact that they're still, I think at this point, nearly 20 points clear of the second place team, that's nuts.
you know what? I'm just going to play daredevil's advocate here, Sundown, okay? Is it possibly that Benji and that trio, even though Doom's mystical bomb is not there, they're seeing the value in that. So they're just going to say, hey, you know, this week it's not in. We're still going to do our thing. So when it comes back, who knows when it does, then at least in week 3, we'll be ready to capitalize on its strength.
Yeah, and I think that's the potential for it as well. But in the end, I think they have to go somewhere else. Also, I have to say, I see what you did there, tossing in the little Daredevil reference. I know that you actually had the opportunity to play in that Daredevil Cup on Wednesday and were able to run through and had a pretty decent result. You were talking about that. Was that it's been probably one of your best competitive results since the fall skirmish days.
That's right. What can I say? Me and the boys, Nick 830 and Bonsai Bros, had a high top 50 finish. We were unable to queue up for our final run in that Daredevil's Cup. And, man, I've never had to use mongrel-type comms in my life. And, boy, oh, boy, that put the energy in my competitive blood. And, yeah, that's what I love about Fortnite is the ability just to give everybody an opportunity competing in the fall skirmish, part of the Fortnites. I had a ball coming in 3rd place. I mean, hey, you want to go way back? The ability to have to recreate the Eiffel Tower, that was insane. The ability to have to not touch the ground as making away with rockets, that was insane. Good times, but here is the insane play, the insane stubbornness, the insanity that is going through that's happening right now. Benji, let's see Savage. But I'm telling you, man, I think they're just making sure that, hey, they're going to be, maybe their practice isn't clean, but we're just talking about practice, Sundown. We're talking about practice.
I mean, this all counts, too. There's money on the line. This qualification spot's on the line, man. They might be practice for them, but also a little bit of unfortunateness as I believe this is the 3rd straight game where either the 1st or 2nd zone, that white line you see in the bottom right-hand corner, has pulled pretty much right through Doom. And we've talked about from the very beginning, these aren't clean fights. These aren't the results either one of these teams wants to see. And on top of that, the rest of the field is being driven towards that white line by the Storm. So now, not only is it a nice little 3-way battle going on there, it's an entire clown fiesta. Everyone in EU is invited, going through and just trying to fight it out. We got another skirmish going on right on the, I believe this is the southern edge of the Stark Mountain, as now they're heading over towards the side and trying to maintain the high ground, but they're going to have to rotate out of here, which you talked about makes it dangerous.
I remember watching DreamHack as Arab, the Raised by Kings, was able to hold on to that just little sliver of Stark Industries there with a strong 200 IQ. So now everybody's IQ is being tested as they've been competing for so many. This is game 11 of high FNCS trio play right now. So you got to hand it to our competitors who are young as well as in age and in heart. Often a lot of our pros still have to juggle school. I remember reading a tweet from Avery. He said he was only getting 6 hours of sleep, considering that he is competing at a high level and maintaining his studies. So it is so difficult for them to do this. It's comparatively for the people in the States, you're watching the like NCAA football, these high-class players performing at a high level while maintaining their studies.
I will say this, don't forget about school, don't forget about your sleep. You'll always be able to prioritize those two. It's very important to maintain a healthy balance while you go through, but these players ultimately look to try and get as much practice as they can. I mean, you say we talk about practice, but in order to maintain the level of mechanics that these guys play at, it does take a very brutal regime of going into creative and maintaining that high level. And on top of that, with all the changes that end up coming through, I think a lot of people underappreciate the level of mental tasks it takes to go through in the small little games all of these guys play. And we talk about the small little games as Lusha, just a nice little solo rider there, considering he did not get knocked down, was hiding in the beams of the house. And that's what I'm talking about when we talk about kind of the burden of knowledge of playing all the way at the top level. Normally that would work, right? In any other typical game of Fortnite, you hiding in the beam of the house, you'd be totally fine. Siberia Jake, the second he walks into that standalone barn, flips his camera upward and he's like, nope, there's a dude up there. And he goes to take the fight, assuming a solo person hiding in there is going to be down bad, and he was. Gets an elimination and a nice point going through.
And that is big right there, considering that Safik and Siberia Jake are sitting at 14th place. tied or really close, 2 points behind that 15th place, and that is the Bubble Squad. This is another team that we had some strong, consistent play going into this day 2, and we're showing how sometimes you could lose momentum going into day 2. So this theme up here is Swag, Miro, and Snap, who are in the top 3 or top 5 going in, are now they stabilized a little bit. They slipped down to 9th place. Now they're back to 8th place, and you're seeing that because the zone pulled near Stark Industries, they're able to capitalize and staying on their feet. We're not yet at placements yet. We're still about four placements away before those points are being doled out, but they are fighting and finding Elim Sundown.
Which means I'm keeping an eye on the top left because I've seen 4ZR and Nate be able to convert on at least a pair of elims between them. If they don't go down before the placement thresholds, the #1 spot's locked up. Unless an absolute miracle comes through in the final game, they can win it right here by getting a decent placement and adding on some eliminations on top of it. And then at that point, the rest of the story comes, can you cement yourself into the top 15 in that game number 12? This is our second to last game right now. This is the 5th game on the day. EU, FNCS coming through right now, and it's all about whether or not they can just maintain the level they've had consistently, not only throughout this weekend, but throughout last weekend too. Don't forget, they were the #1 team last weekend, pretty much wire to wire.
It is 7 teams that are on the bubble. They have the ability to qualify. And I think I just saw a llama there. I don't know. Maybe my chat will tell me llama 210. I'm not 100% sure. But I know that we have an emote-only mode here on the Twitch side of things. And on YouTube, just let us know, man. But yes, seven trios are on the bubble. Either they could flourish or punch their way in or burst and have to do it again and run the gauntlet of having that run. And already the competitors have been competing all weekend starting Friday, getting into the opens, this round 1 type of situation, going to round 2 as well. Now we are here in round 3, which is split in 2 days. Day 2, but Seti, Teak, and Kubix are heating up at the right time. We have been watching their story and how they play on the low to mid ground, and they've been doing it so well, executing to perfection, picking up some big time eliminations as well, able to get those refreshers that they need from not only their elims, but using the harpoon, as you're seeing it in the inventory. The harpoon is such an underutilized kind of thing. I know Clay is out there watching. Where did you come from? I don't know. This is a scary game. Sundown out of nowhere, we get a fright, but what a nice turnaround, that 180 of that situation. The Aikido flip as Kubix almost gets a scare, but oh my goodness, I did not see that at all.
It looked like he might have got dropped down from a crash pad that may have just clipped through that ceiling, or it was edited real quick, but good job to not panic and then stick with the AR afterward. A little fortunate to maybe hit back-to-back headshots there to really chunk through the initial burst of that armor, but ultimately they're going to be able to burn the shields, get through, and that's a point, and some more Storm Surge coming through, as we still have 55 players up. So right now, 5 players being threatened by that Storm Surge. That's 25 damage every 10 seconds coming through to the most passive players. It will turn off when 4 more have fallen. However, because that half-in, half-out zone is going to signal the transition from mid to late game. You could see it pulling south. We'll have the moving zones after that for 6 through 9 that will all be outside of where the current safe zone is. So expect plenty of players to fall here as Janice gets down, and we're going to flip on over to that safe zone. As you can see right now, Siberia Jake up on the high ground trying to put a little bit of pressure on those players coming in and figure out where the threat's going to come from.
And yeah, this is the bubble team that we mentioned before. Siberia Jake sitting in 14th place for this match. And Alex and Janice are kind of trading X-Splash as well. That's a big time knock right there as they kind of slow down the momentum of Janice. As Reese was pointing out, they were catching on, heating up. That was a top 10 team going down. But we're keeping an eye on these 7 trios. Watch out, heads up! Here comes someone going from height. This is going to be an opportunity though for the Siberia Jake to pick up an Elim as they need. They're going to try to chase it down. But oh my goodness, I don't know. We're 13 days from Halloween, and already we got so many jump scares in this game 11 here, Sundown.
Yeah, but the one thing to note, look at Jake's builds. You can see his 3 eliminations, but right underneath it with the build symbol, he only has 3 more mats. However, we talked about keeping an eye on the top left. Well, Kezik's just got an elimination. There's 16 trios left, so those placement points are going to start ticking through, and I'm pretty much sure they're going to be able to wrap it up. Nobody's been able to really find them and threaten them kind of within this window. Once they get kind of into this 6th zone, it's really rare for them to be completely dropped out, but right now, Jake using the crash pad, dropping down 180 on the flick right right away. That's a Nos and Thomas HD, and Nos will be taken down. However, that means Thomas HD is still up somewhere because it wasn't just the full elim going through. So good little execution to pick up those two in a key refresh. And as we pan out, don't see him there, so might have been a little bit mistaken. But Bouncer comes out and set your top. Set your top the entire time. Don't just do a one layer. And by that, I mean put an extra wall on each side and put a ramp above you. It prevents your trio from being split off like we just saw. But now, keep an eye on the top left. Savage with a pair of knocks. We're on board here with Chapik, Squeezy, and Milan, our current second place team.
And currently in danger of Storm Surge focus at 106 HP. They get a little bit, okay, they're barely on the fence here as 4 players have to go down. Here in Zone 7, you're going to see Storm Surge, so watch out here as much as possible here, and this is where it gets dangerous. It is a rotating surge, and that rotating surge could be a danger, but Chapix gets Matzo as Train Hard's trio. Down they go, and here we go, and they're way away from Storm Surge, and now the rest of the lobby has to breathe a sigh of relief as it gets closer and closer to that 30 point. But now, ladies and gentlemen, it is in-game time. We got 2 more zones before this goes all the way down, and you're seeing another beautiful tarp from Squeezy, Milan, and Chapix sitting at second place currently on our cumulative leaderboard in day 2, and they kind of came out of nowhere in a sense. Did not make it in the 34th place, the redemption tail, and there you're gonna see they're making the switch to go up, and they're going slowly up and up as Milan is on the backside of things, trying to pick up the mess, trying to clean up all the cleanups on the remaining aisles, the dirt and whatnot. But what a great pickup right then and there, and there he is again looking for those opportunities, get some nice tags, didn't almost got it there, got it down to the white tags.
And trying to convert on it, gets him immediately open up an edit on the side. See Mongrel picking up Razumi there. However, we also saw that 4ZR was able to pick up another elimination. Those placement points are ticking over, 6 of them so far. That'll be number 7 as we get into our top 10. Cubex falling in 11th. However, 4ZR, Kezix, they are still up number 1 last week and looking to cement the number 1 this week. We're going to hop back on over now with Milan and Chapix. They'll find Teak there. That was another team who is challenging towards the top. Chapix and Co trying to get the eliminations to push towards the top, but it's going to take a whole lot more than that as Kezix is going to be able to convert onto Thomas HD. But look who's on high ground again, Sancho.
Woo! Deja vu! It is Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson, and they are fundamentally the strongest team. I don't know if they could call themselves the big fundamentals of the region because this is going to be a textbook finish. But we did see, though, hey, it's not guaranteed. They did not execute perfectly near the end, and they came out in second place. But what's some strong finishes right here in day 2? Mongrel did it in week 1 with this whole entire trio, and here in week 2, day 2, they're doing it again, and Mongrel is one of the strongest closers. We already see him trying. Look, they're so high up, and you're seeing the attempts to go from height, and they lay down the beams right there. We got Mitra on your top right. We got Squeezy as well, the second place. So Squeezy's in that mucky muck, and here on the up top is Mitro. And look, it's going over old builds, and that just means that gives the green light for height here at Sundown.
And all I'm saying, on the wide, on the back left, while I have Queasy on the bottom right, the second place team, and then the height on the top right, we still have our number 1 team is still in the game, forcing towards the front of the zone. Finally, 4ZR gets taken down there. It's all going to be on the back of Kezix, who's again going back out into the zone and trying to circle around. You see him in the bottom left-hand side. He will be able to get forward, but every single trio he outlasts and finally taken down, but those placement points should be enough to push him all the way up onto the top. Now it's all about this 3v3 going down right now. You can see high ground raining down shots from above, or excuse me, 3v2 v1 as you have Queasy in the storm, and then Pickus and Erkin trying to fight it off, but it's all Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson, baby, as they take it away. That's their 3rd win over the weekend. They had 2nd place in between, sandwiching their victory royales, and now it's 32 points, launching them towards the top.
6 victory royales here in round 3. The bank is open for the big fundamentals, and look at the chaos they control. The height control, bring